Dementia is a cruel disease. And to try and make sense of that, this is my mum. This is somebody that I cherish. I spend a lot of time with my mum. That's incredibly important to me, but I can't fix it. So in the absence of being able to fix it, I want to try and do something that makes a difference for her, for sure. But actually, as I've learned more and more about dementia, what I love the idea of the most is being able to make everybody's day a little bit better, to be honest.
Hello, and welcome to Storytelling for Business, the podcast that helps you build meaningful relationships with your customers and clients by telling stories they want to hear. I'm Katie Flamman. I'm a voice actor and podcaster specialising in business storytelling. I work from my own recording studio right here, and I do a bit of everything: corporate videos, ad campaigns, training modules, and answer phone messages. My clients include Pearson, Pfizer, and Volkswagen. They've all trusted me to help them share brand stories and business developments. So, storytelling for business. Seems these days everyone's banging on about storytelling, but what's that all about, really? What's the power of story? Can telling stories really boost your business? I'm investigating. I'm talking to storytelling experts and regular business owners to find out. And actually, today's guest is a bit of both. Louise Callin is the founder and CEO of a brand new startup, Real Life Conversations. She's invented an app to support people with dementia and their carers. It brings family photos to life, guiding conversations and unlocking memories. Louise's business literally is storytelling. I'm so excited to have her here. And she's joining us from her boat, which is why you might be able to hear boat noises in the background. Louise Callin, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much, Katie. Thank you for inviting me. This is a very exciting day for us at Real Life Conversations.
Well, it's brilliant to have you, and it's such a fascinating and unique idea. So let's jump right in. So Louise, what actually have you invented?
Invented. That's such a cool word. I love it. As somebody that's been involved in tech for
word.
All of my career, invented. What I have invented is the ability for a dementia patient and their caregiver, whether that caregiver be a paid carer, somebody in a hospital, hospice, or care home type environment, friend, family. It gives two people the ability to sit down and have a conversation about the family photographs that have been collated and are in front of them. It provides...
So they've got an iPad, a tablet, something like that in front of them?
Ideally a tablet, yes. Ideally a tablet. Mm-hmm. And any tablet will do. How do the pictures get in there? Really talk us through it step by step. If I say yes, I want to get this, what happens? What happens is we envisage the role of a family administrator. And a family administrator is most likely the person that's going to download the app. And at that point, they will be able to set up some very basic, things about their loved one. Their name is very important because we welcome that person by name every time they look at the app. The family administrator then, either by themselves, can upload photos to their own space, which is secure and has all of the privacy things that you would expect. By themselves, they can upload all of those photos into the app. Or we have a concept of contributors. And those contributors can be friends, family members of the loved one with dementia, and they can also add their photos. What we'd really like is a sentence or two about each of those photos, whether that be the why that photo was taken. It might be something about the where, it might be about the who, but we don't mind.
Yeah. So this is you and Uncle Phil when you went for that lovely walk in Brighton.
Absolutely. And if the photo is a digital photo, we can use lots of the information that the digital photo holds about itself. If it is a photo of a photo from your photo album, your physical photo album. We don't care about that either. As long as you can just about see what that photo is, take a snap of it, upload it into our album.
Because some of them are going to be old, aren't they?
Really, absolutely.
They're going to be old
we
pictures.
Don't mind if it's black and white colour, if it's got curly edges, we don't care. Pop it in, add it to the album, add it to your real life conversation album. And in the background, what we do is we go and join all of those photos together. So imagine the visual of chucking 100 photos, let's just say, up in the air. And then as they land down on your desk, they've got hundreds of little bits of string that show all of the things that link those photos together. And it's a beautiful map on your desk, your table, whatever it might be. And the things that link those pictures together might be people, it might be places, it might be time, a decade, for example, or a year. It might be a particular holiday destination. It might be anything like that. But the other thing that we look at are everyday objects in every single photo. Because if your loved one doesn't remember the who, they don't remember the why, they don't remember the where, we still provide the opportunity to talk about that photo. There is no swiping right in our app because you don't remember something. We will always pick out, oh, what a beautiful necklace you're wearing in that photo. If you sat in front of me now was one of the pictures in the photo, we would pick out, gosh, they look like earmuffs, for example. Or it might be something about your lovely necklace. It might be the colour red in the corner of your cardigan. So we will pick out items from that picture. So even if all of the obvious things in that photo aren't something that you remember, actually, there's always something to talk about.
How did this idea come about?
So I have a mum with dementia, and she's about 5 to 6 years into her journey at the moment. And she loves, more than anything, to look at our family photos. It's something that gives both me and her joy. They are moments of calm. And when you're talking about dementia, I always feel like that expression of, if you know, you know. Because if you've ever looked after someone with dementia, you know that a quiet and peaceful 5 minutes or 10 minutes is just worth its weight in gold. It's just incredible. It's such a lovely time because it's not always like that. Dementia is a very difficult disease to observe, to have. And those moments make a huge difference. So I've had a 30-year almost career in corporate technology. And at the back end of last year, decided that I wanted to do something different. I let my brain potter around for a few weeks, thinking about what I might do. And this concept of my two, huge parts of my world, my career and being a carer for my mum, started to come together. And real life conversations has emerged.
Wow. Okay. That's so fascinating. All right. So tell us about your mum. What's she like? What's she like now, and what was she like?
My mum's amazing. Yeah. She has got a wicked sense of humour. And she still has. She still has today. Sometimes I get that little twinkle, usually a naughty twinkle, I'm not going to lie. A little twinkle in her eye that can emerge from all sorts of funny scenarios. I'm embarrassed to say that sometimes that can be at other people's expense, but that is also part of her charm. She's been an incredible, traditional mum. She was a great support to my dad during his business life, and she was a great mum to my brother and I. And she moved down to be near me about 12 years ago. And lockdown was tough for my mum, no question.
Yeah,
she lived on her own. And all of the things that gave my mum structure, all of the things that gave my mum purpose, and all of the things that honestly gave her a lot of joy, which was spending time with other people, suddenly got stripped away, like it did for us all. So she wasn't unique in that sense. But the loneliness, hour after hour, day after day, I don't think any of us appreciated just how impactful that was, and the ongoing and long-term effects that would have on so many. So, fast forward, she began to change. She began to lose confidence in things like directions, and she suddenly didn't remember how to organize things. My mum, we always used to laugh about my mum and say that she had the ability to organize the logistics of a small nation's army. She was an incredible planner, and in a different life, my mum would have been a project manager for some company doing something, because that's how life was. She was just an amazing list maker. Nothing fell through the cracks. She was just that woman. And all of a sudden, that really was obvious that skill wasn't really happening. And she didn't want to organize in that way, and she couldn't organize in that way anymore. So even though they might not seem like big things, they were hugely different from the way that my mum operated and the way that she liked to organize herself. And she didn't have confidence. She didn't have confidence anymore. She stopped friendships. She stopped wanting to talk to people. And I think, honestly, she was scared of being found out, that there was something really wrong, and that her life had shifted and changed. So, we started on the journey of trying to get her diagnosed, which was an epic journey because of flat refusal and denial, desire not to tell people how she really felt. And it was very difficult. It's a very difficult thing to go through, diagnosis for dementia.
And you feel like the bad guy, I guess.
Oh.
In that, because there's something wrong.
Yes.
And you want to help.
Yes.
And
the only person that can really talk about the differences, if someone doesn't want to talk about it, is those that are closest to you. So you go from being like numero uno, the person that is like your best person in some ways, to being the worst person in the world. And that's a real shift of role. It's a real shift of, it's a very difficult time.
A very different dynamic. I can imagine that. And it was interesting when you talked about COVID robbing people of that connection and feeling disconnected from other people, because you're right, we did all feel that. And whether we worked remotely or whether we lived, depending on who you are, you've had a very different experience of COVID, right? People trying to homeschool, or people who live by themselves being desperately lonely, or whatever. But that feeling of being robbed of connection is universal. And that's really what dementia does too, isn't it? It's kind of what your mum ended up kind of developing in her. Maybe COVID kickstarted it, whatever happened. It's a more permanent version of lockdown, I guess.
I've never thought of it that way, but I think you're bang on. None of us, I don't think, really know how it feels to be that person and be in that space. But the observation, seeing it being so incredibly difficult to link one thing to the next, the science says that's exactly what's going on. The brain is no longer functioning in the way that it used to because of a disease that is impacting its ability to send messages, whether that, for all sorts of different reasons.
To join the dots.
But exactly, joining the dots is no longer a natural thing, and it's hampered. I love what you said then, actually. It's a very different form of lockdown.
So you became, well, maybe overnight, but also over a longer period of time, a dementia expert. You've got this tech background, you've got a very smart mind, and this was happening to this beautiful role model, wonderful woman in your life. And I mean, I don't know about you, but I always want to help. I want to fix things. I want to make it all better, take it away, whether it's my child or somebody I really care about. If I could take the pain onto myself, I really would. And it seems to me that's what that I mean, starting a business is a big deal. So you must have really wanted to make a difference with this.
Yes, I absolutely did. I'm going to say it again because we must keep hammering this home. Dementia is a cruel disease. And to try and make sense of that, this is my mum. This is somebody that I cherish. And knowing that I can do nothing to fix it is very difficult. Yeah. It's very difficult for a person like many of us are. I don't mean I'm unique, but for a person like me, it's very difficult to not just try and want to fix the problem. I can't fix the problem. I spend a lot of time with my mum. That's incredibly important to me, but I can't fix it. So in the absence of being able to fix it, I want to try and do something that makes a difference for her, for sure. But actually, as I've learned more and more about dementia and people with dementia, actually, what I love the idea of the most is being able to make everybody's day a little bit better, to be honest. Real life conversations isn't about fixing everybody's day for 20 hours a day. It's absolutely not that. It's about capturing a moment, and it's about having a moment where you just get something back. You get a little glimpse. You get a little glimpse of the person that you used to know, and allow them to feel a little bit more like the person that they recognize as well.
Yeah. Yeah. So bringing that connection back for both sides, for them and for you, and recognizing who they were. It's, I get it. I completely get it. So how many people have dementia in the UK? And how many people are looking after those people?
So there are about 1 million people in the UK that have dementia today. It's a significant number of people. It's the UK's second largest killer, or is it now even the UK's largest killer? It is researched very, very well. There's lots of research going on at the moment, incredible amounts of research. But there are lots of families that do everything they can to try and support their loved one. The statistics say there are 600,000 people in the UK today that are unpaid carers to their loved one with dementia.
That is staggering, isn't it? 1 million people and 600,000 other people. So it's affecting a lot of people. And I was thinking when you were saying about the health implications, if somebody has a diagnosis of cancer, of course that's devastating, but there's usually a plan or a roadmap or something they can do, or they tell you that there's nothing they can do. But at least you kind of know. And if somebody breaks a limb or needs an operation, there's usually a way to go about it, but there's not a lot that they can do with dementia, is there? Or is there? Is there kind of groundbreaking treatments? You said there's loads of research. So what do you? I know, and I also know that you've got scientific advisors on board with real life conversations. So, I mean, kind of how deep a dive have you done into all of the science?
So I'm going to talk about being a daughter of a dementia patient, and then I can talk about being a business owner of a dementia service or tool or product. So as a daughter, it's a lonely, lonely world. It is a very difficult time to navigate. One of the things that I've said before, and it was actually in my first blog, and it was a really poignant thing. In the beginning, I found it so difficult to read all of the information that there is out there about my mum's path and where she was heading. It's a bleak path, frankly. And I couldn't digest it. I used to find it so difficult knowing that that's the direction that my mum was heading in. And one of my greatest friends, what a blessing she was. She used to read all of that for me. She used to read books cover to cover, the guides, information on the internet. And then she would gently summarize for me. She would pick out the bits that would be the most helpful at this stage. And then some of the other stuff she would just leave for the moment. And we have this great concept of like now, next, and later. What do I need to know now? What do I need to know next? And what can I worry about later? What a treasure she was. And now I feel a lot more confident with the information. I've got a lot more experience. My own journey as a carer has evolved, of course, because you learn more and more as you're looking after somebody. And to be honest, I look back at some of the things I used to do and say and wince a little bit. I think for a long time, I protected my mum and did it with the absolute best of intentions. But I used to almost pretend that a lot of the things weren't happening in order to save her embarrassment. I used to help her with things that probably would have, if we'd have sorted some of those things out before, we might have had more help earlier, or at least a diagnosis earlier. But instead of that, through protection and love and respect, all of those things that you have as a daughter, I didn't. And it actually sort of went the other way, I think, in some ways. Now, fast forward to being a business owner, trying to look at the science and all of the information that's out there. Meeting Dr. Phil Jodrell was just an absolute blessing, frankly. Here's a man that has spent the last, over 10 years studying the effect of accessible technology for people with dementia and looking and studying all sorts of different scenarios. And here was me sort of bumbling along with this great idea, what I thought was a great idea. And then having somebody that's looked at this, nod and actually gently say, yeah, you're onto something here. This is good. I like it. And he's been a huge asset to our team. And we're feel very lucky to have him on board. And he's helped us no end. Silly things that might mean nothing to some people, but to a dementia patient makes all the difference. So having your mouse, not just as a mouse, but actually giving you just a little bit more instruction, a bit more obvious hovering as to where you are, and a little bit of feedback. So whether that's in the form of like a haptic or something, so you get the little judder if you've done something that you're expecting to do with your tablet. Fonts, there's a lot of research around accessible fonts. And then there's an extra little bit that actually helps a dementia patient as well. So clarity is just so important. Colors. Yeah. Colors are very important. And how we figure out the right color to use to be able to distinguish between information and non-information. How we simplify all of the data on the screen, strip away as much as possible so that there is as little complexity as possible. But I guess a lot of that is obvious. But one of the things that is so important for the self-esteem of a dementia patient is to not have a fear of failure. There is no right or wrong in real life conversations. It doesn't exist. There is no right or wrong. You can't get it wrong. And so for somebody that worries about getting it wrong, doesn't want to be exposed for getting it wrong, all of a sudden there's an activity that you can do that doesn't care whether you're right or wrong. And that principle of it doesn't have to be empowering. Perfect was actually something that I've used right from the beginning. It doesn't have to be perfect. And for a dementia patient, being able to feel like they can contribute to a conversation. And if they get something wrong, it doesn't matter. It doesn't change the direction. It doesn't give you a no, ever. You just keep flowing through. And this is where it's important for a carer as well. So a caregiver that might or might not be a friend, family member. They actually might be somebody that is just getting to know the person with dementia now and didn't know anything about their past. Those prompts that help to be able to support that kind of conversation is, I'm told, a very valuable asset, because always trying to think of something to say in what can be quite banal conversation, to be honest, because it doesn't flow naturally. So actually having prompts that guide you, I think, is going to be something that is a real game changer for many. And that's my dream. That's my hope.
I guess there's probably a lot of anxiety or fear, maybe if you show a picture to someone and they don't know who it is, they don't remember where it is, they don't recognise anything, that could potentially be quite a stressful experience for them. So I love that you've got something, there's always something that you can pick up on. And like you said, they can't get it wrong.
Yeah. And that's lived experience. That is lived experience that has gone into the design, because there's been way too many times where I've looked at a picture and I haven't got a clue, if that's Uncle Fred's great friend or whatever else, haven't got a clue who it is, haven't had the opportunity to ring round my cousins and ask them, haven't got anyone there in the moment that can help me, don't know anything about it. So what do? I poke at, look at what a gorgeous dress. Gosh, weren't the 40s beautiful? Whatever it might be. What was your favorite thing? And all of a sudden you've generated a conversation naturally because you can see it in that picture. So there's no surprise why you're suddenly talking about something, but you've unlocked the ability to have a much more natural conversation because there's something to tie it to. The picture is your anchor, and it can unlock, if you're patient, I never want to say patient, very sorry, shouldn't say patient. If your loved one with dementia or the person that you're looking after that has dementia recognizes someone in the photo, amazing. We can go off, we can look at other photos of that person, we can see where that takes us on our little journey of photos. But if you don't, there's a backup and there's a plan. And there's always the ability to honour that photo and not just move on just because your loved one doesn't remember who's in it.
I think, I'm just going to pick up on you saying, I didn't mean to say patient, I shouldn't say patient. I think I get it. I should think this is the most extraordinarily frustrating experience perhaps you've ever had in your life. And it must be exceptionally difficult to not just chuck everything up in the air and walk out sometimes, because you're trying and you're trying and you're trying, and it must feel like you're banging your head against a brick wall some days.
Oh, totally.
Am I right there?
Absolutely. One of the things, again, I'll say it again, if you know, you know. Yesterday, and this is the honest truth because I've got no reason to lie to you, I really needed a hug from my mum. It didn't really matter if she knew or she didn't know, but yesterday I really wanted a hug from my mum. Yesterday, not a chance. Didn't stand a chance of getting that hug. But I think there was some deep down awareness of mum that she hadn't got it quite right. I cannot even begin to imagine how hard that is for her. And it breaks me every time that happens. As I say, there are really good reasons for taking huge risks in life. But if it is, nothing feels more important than this right now. Nothing feels more important.
Well, you're doing a double risk. You're doing this. You're. I guess it's a risk because you don't know if it will help all the people you think it's going to help. I think it probably will massively help lots of people. But it's a risk because you're starting a business, and whether people have experience of dementia or being a carer or not, whether they're a parent or not, starting a business is a big deal. It is scary. It is a lot. So I think, is there a story that you were telling yourself all those years in tech, and then did that story change when you ended up deciding to do this kind of, I'm not going to say mad idea because it's a brilliant idea, but it's a bit of a pivot, right? From doing all those years in corporate to now being an entrepreneur and all the other stuff that goes with that.
I'd just like to say triple risk. I've never done a podcast before, but that's beside the point. Of course, back doing the kind of job that I did, I had the absolute privilege of leading lots of people. My teams meant everything to me, and I always tell a funny story about wanting to be a physio. That was all I ever wanted to be growing up. I wanted to be a physiotherapist. I didn't get my grades at A-level. I messed it up. And I went to do a computing degree. As I have progressed through my career, actually caring about people, solving problems, teamwork, and actually trying to make a difference, it landed every day for me in my corporate world. What has become and what's emerged through my mum's experience and my own experience of being a carer, I've just changed those dynamics a bit. Actually, what really matters to me is how my 30 years of experience doing what I do can actually make a difference to people. I am so passionate about carers and people that do this as a job. They are the most celebrated group of people as far as I'm concerned. So if you are listening to this and you're a carer, thank you so much for what you do. You do an incredible job that is at times very stressful, very hard work. And I can promise you that 6 years ago, I had no idea just how important your role was. And now I do. So thank you.
Perspective, huh?
Yeah.
We talk a lot about perspectives on this podcast and seeing things from other people's perspectives. But I love that you've kind of taken what you already had, that care, that desire to help people, to do the very best for your teams, and of course your kind of tech brain, and you've put it all together into something which is both exceptionally personal, like super selfish, if you like, but also massively altruistic, because as we said before, 1 million people with dementia, 600,000 carers. If it takes off in the way that you hope, it really will enable people to feel less fear, feel less guilt and shame, and tell each other stories that, well, I say in my introduction every week, every podcast episode, telling your audience stories that they want to hear. That's kind of what you're enabling, I think, with your Real Life Conversations app.
I hope so. I really hope so. That is, for me, what it's all about. Those stories, those moments, being able to unlock memories from storage. That's one of the things that I talk about. Sometimes we aren't able to tap into the things that someone with dementia does know because we can't go back there with them. And so there we are having wonderful conversations about, what's happened today or what's in your life. But where you said selfish earlier, it's like, great, but how am I going to actually turn the table and actually talk about something the mum wants to talk about, or your loved one with dementia? If you don't go back there with them, how can you? How do you do it? It's very, very difficult. And if you don't know that person's background, even more so.
Oh. Yeah. If you're not a close family member, if you are a nurse or a grandchild or a great grandchild or somebody who doesn't see them very often, that can be quite difficult, can't it, to make that connection?
Very, very difficult. You pick on a brilliant point there, I think. It's hard to have a conversation with someone with dementia. You have to have the ability to pivot quickly because you just don't know where it's going to go. Because if they forget what they were saying, they'll then look at the table and go, oh, cup of tea, because they need a prompt, and the prompt will be whatever they can see in front of them, because they don't want to stop because they realize they were in flow. Well, not flow, but it's a very difficult thing to have a conversation. So the idea of a safe activity, an activity that helps someone with dementia go back in time to a place where perhaps they've got a lot more to say than if you just keep going back to yesterday, a story might emerge for you both that you had no idea would still be remembered. And you can honour that story. You can do something with it. You can take it with you. And you could tell someone else that story as well. So the idea of unlocking that is hugely important to me.
And it's legacy as well, isn't it? It's passing on that knowledge and that information from the photos through their memory, and I love that you use the word unlocking, because it's really, I think it's really interesting how memories work, and I've got notoriously bad memory, and I never remember anything really, where I've been, films I've seen, and then I'm watching it and I think, oh yeah, I have seen that. But it's quite personal, but it's also really universal, and that's, I think, what I'm fascinated about in terms of these shared stories that you're able to bring about, whether the person has the knowledge in advance or not. As you say, you can absorb a new story and learn something new that maybe you didn't know at the beginning of the experience.
Absolutely. And I think one of the things I haven't talked about at all is like how the app will adjust to the stage of dementia that your loved one is at.
Tell us about that.
Well, the things that you need at early to mid stage are very different to what you need at, mid to late, for example. So what we actually have the ability to do, or will do, is, because we are still in development, is actually adjust the information that gets displayed. So in the beginning, you might want less about objects and things like that, because there's a lot more ability to be able to see and remember things that are on the screen in front of you, and therefore prompting about objects might be less useful. So there's effectively like a sliding scale where you can talk about where your loved one is at, and it will just adjust the type of information that we display. Going all the way through to the late stage of dementia. And I'm not there yet, so I don't have lived experience on this, but this is where my advisors come in, and this is where the people that are, incredibly skilled at this stage have been able to help me. But the idea of bringing music in at this point is very important, because the conversation
I was going to ask you about
becomes
sound.
much less. And so then music becomes way more important. And then it's much more of a one-sided conversation where a carer or a loved one might just be able to sit and describe a few words about that picture. But how much more connected is if actually there is music that matches the decade that photo was taken, or it's a favourite song. So those are the things that we're actually putting in, that kind of thing, where we can actually adjust and adapt depending on where you're at on your journey. And our hope is that, because photos are something that everyone loves to look at in the main, this is something that you can use for quite some time, all the way through, in all honesty, to end of life, and being able to then have the ability, if you so desire, to connect with a third party that will allow you to take all of those photos and pop those into a memory book, something that actually you can hold on to. We haven't even thought about how we're going to do that yet. I'll be totally honest with you, but that's on the wish list. It's on the backlog. But that is a very stressful time for everybody. I've been to too many funerals where, you see all the photos of loved ones. That's actually quite difficult to be doing that at that stage of grief, collecting all of those things together. But actually, if you had sent in a selection of favourite photos, how wonderful to be able to use those to be able to help you at that awful stage. So that's a potential. We're looking into what that might look like. But yeah, real life conversations, we hope, is going to be a tool that can help people from as early as they become aware all the way through. Yeah, we're just looking to give those moments of joy. One thing I'd love to say as well.
Yeah, go, of course.
Where families aren't always physically together, the guilt associated with not being able to continue and contribute towards everyday care for someone with dementia, which is very long and drawn out, is heavy. It's a very heavy emotion. what real life conversations could allow you to do. Say you had a sibling and the sibling was the one there day to day to day, and you weren't able to be there every single day. You could take on the role remotely as the family administrator, do all of the organising, get all of those photos gathered together. And then there is some sense of contribution to care. If actually you're the one that is helping, you can refresh those pictures if you want to, but you can do something. And actually, if I had a penny for every single time one of my extended family said to me, is there anything I can do? And I have to very politely decline and say, it's very difficult for you to help remotely. I love the fact that people message me, of course, but that's support for me. That's not actually support for my mum.
Yes.
And it's a big difference.
And that's different, isn't it? Yeah.
It is.
Lovely. Okay. How can people sign up? How can people become a subscriber or buy the app, the Real Life Conversations app?
So the thing that will help Real Life Conversations the most is joining our waitlist. It's not yet available. We are tracking towards an August delivery. And so if
August 2025
doesn't feel that long away now. But it's
stay calm.
It's all fine. It's all fine. Running a small business, it's all good. Every day is a school day. That expression has never been more true. But please do go to our website. Please join our wait list. There's a million buttons everywhere, all over that wait list, all over the website, hoping that people might join our wait list. That shows that this product is needed. And that's very helpful for a business, a startup like mine, to be able to show the need. I know this is needed. I believe in every ounce of my being that this will help people. I need some numbers that show that too. So if any of your listeners are impacted by dementia, any of your listeners are going through this kind of journey, A, I'm right by your side and I know how tough it is, but B, pop your name in my wait list, and I can't wait to be able to unlock your ability to have some real life conversations.
What's the website?
It is
Louise?
www.reallifeconversations.com, and it's a play on real. It's REEL because this is about photos.
Love it. Okay. Well, we're nearly out of time, it's been such a fascinating conversation, quite a heavy conversation, but also there's a lot of hope in there. And I'm really, really excited for you. So I'm going to ask you my last question, which I always ask people, which is, what does your story look like for the next 5 years?
I want want this product in the hands of as many people as I can. We talk about the million people in the UK. There's 60 million people worldwide. 60 million people. If we could make 1% of a difference to someone's day at that kind of scale, that feels amazing to me. I want people to love my product, and I want to be able to make a difference. It's that simple. So my next 5 years, I will be walking the streets. I will be telling as many people as I can about the product, and hope that people enjoy it.
Lovely. Lovely. Well, it's been a real privilege to talk to you about it, and I can't wait to find out how your launch goes and what happens next. But I wish you and your mum the very best for the future.
Thank you.
So, Louise Callin, thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Thank you very much for having me.
What a fascinating conversation that was. Okay, here are today's key takeaways. 1. What's your why? Louise was super clear on why she started her business. She said, nothing feels more important than this right now. She took a massive risk leaving her solid 30-year corporate career to create a business from scratch, but she is very clear on why she's doing it, and that passion really shone through. Does your business light you up? 2. Share stories about your why. Wasn't it lovely when Louise described her mum's wicked sense of humour and the naughty twinkle in her eye? And then she told us about watching her mum lose confidence and start to isolate herself. Louise was really vulnerable in our conversation, and that's powerful. It's up to you, of course, whether you choose to show up in such a real and raw way. But for Louise, I'm certain her story will help her marketing and will make her and her product stand out and enable her to help people living with dementia. 3. Sharing stories and co-creating them are a fundamental human need. Louise told us her real-life conversations app is about capturing a moment and getting something back. You get a little glimpse, she said, of the person you used to know. For people living with dementia, communication and connection are vital to identity, relationships, and emotional well-being. But I'd argue that sharing stories isn't just a lifeline for dementia sufferers. It's a powerful need for all of us. Phew, we really do cover a lot of ground in this podcast, don't we? A massive thanks to Louise Callin. Do check out her website for more information about her new app. And you can also watch a video on there which shows how it works. All the details are in the show notes. Coming up next time.
There was just this feeling that I work in video, I need to get in front of video. I need to push myself. I've always felt like self-challenges are the way that you move yourself forward. Yeah. You get to the next stage, and maybe that's an incremental step, but all those incremental steps, they work towards the bigger picture. So I started doing sporadic videos, trying to help people with the same fear as I have.
Creative director Andy Greenhouse on why video storytelling is so powerful, how icky he feels about getting in front of the camera himself, and why he's doing it anyway. And that's just a tiny bit of what our conversation covers. It's really good. So please make sure you subscribe so you don't miss it. And if you're enjoying the series, please consider leaving a review so more people can join our storytelling voyage of discovery. Okay, time's up. I'm Katie Flaman, and this is Storytelling for Business. Until next time, goodbye.